adventures in live casting.
This is one for the books.
We're making history.
That's right.
We have Anne Fiordalisi. Hi, how are you doing? It's always really early. One of the first. Hi, Shanda. Hi, Sue. Hey, Victor.
Oh, I'm just noticing that it's appearing in the list. I'm looking at the list of participants, which is alphabetical, starting with Alette. Hey,
Something
Alette.
new. Yeah, Alette.
Yep. Got Chris Ferriolo, our regular.
Hi, Chris.
Crystal J, David, Donna Gerber, Lucas Murphy. We're going to look at two of his fabulous photos today. Marilee. Hey, Marilee. Mickey Baisley. Patty Waldron. Patricia Jackson. Shonda. We're going to look at Shonda's great-grandparents' profiles today. Sue Carta. Victor Rose. Contributed a June ancestor today, April. So awesome to have everyone with us. And so we are recording this. So what a morning. If you are watching this on YouTube, you know, blissfully unaware later, we had a technology glitch, and so we thought this would be a good way to salvage everything. I'm Betsy Coe, and I am so excited this morning to have Sandy Paddock and Vicki Blanco with me this morning. Yeah, Megs and Greg are off at a genealogy conference, so they don't know the fun they missed this morning.
Oh, they don't know about adrenaline. All the adrenaline.
So, all right. Well, since we're getting a little bit of a late start, should we jump into it, Sandy?
Let's jump into it. Let me get set up real quick.
And I can talk you through anything with screen sharing.
There we go. And
it's so different to start without the music.
I know.
I need that.
Without the sound. The sound. So I'm going to start with connection checkers. Is how I'm going to start. Let me get that up on my screen though, real quick. Okay, so how many of you have played connection checkers? Hopefully you can see the screen.
I have.
There. Let me just make it a little bit bigger.
Oh, there.
There.
Good. That's
there
good.
It is.
Got it? You can see it? Okay.
Yep.
So I just wanted to mention that I'm going to do the profiles of the week, but with the profiles of the week, it kind of goes hand in hand with the connection checkers. And I'm not sure if everybody knows the game and how to play with it, but every time that Abby posts up the profiles of the week, she also does a post just like this. And what this post kind of tells you is shows you everybody, the theme and everybody that's listed, and the rules on how to play connection checkers. So what you do is you come down and you look at your connection checkers and just do that by coming to the bottom of your screen on your profile. You can see who you're closest to, and you can pick who you want to verify. And I think that a lot of people just kind of do this and say, copy it, put it in GDG and say, this is who I am, this is who I connect to, but it's actually a little bit more than that. So what we're asking you to do is pick one, pick five, pick all, pick the shortest, pick the longest, and verify. So how do you verify that? So when you go to G2G, you can say, for example, I'm going to pick James Madison and I want to verify him. You're going to take every profile between you and James Madison and make sure that it's sourced properly. It may clean up a little, JCOM, maybe add some categories or anything that a profile might need. And you want to look at your sources as well. So if I am trying to source a mother to son, for example, a census or a birth certificate, a register of a son might be a way to source that. Then you know for sure those two profiles are connected. And then you go to the next one and the next one through your connection to me line. So if I come over and take one of them, you can see this is going to be my connection to me. I have to go through each and every one of these profiles to make sure they're sourced. And for the son to the mother, and then from the mother to the father, that could be a census record. And that's how you play the connection checkers. So I think a lot of people get confused and they just give you, I'm connected to this person, that person, but we want you to do a little bit more and verify it and tell us that you double check the connection all the way through. So that's connection checkers. And it comes out, I think every Tuesday it comes out, and you still have time to work on this one. So if you haven't, or you want to do some more work on a profile, feel free. Okay, let's get into some of the profiles. I just want to go through some interesting facts and tips. You guys gave really, really good suggestions for father related. So the very first one is American centric. It's going to be James Madison. And he was the father of the U.S. Constitution, fourth president of the United States. And he was kind of interesting. He is the shortest president that we've ever had. He was only about 5'4", and he was the only president to directly command troops in battle and actually joined on the front lines, which is something you don't really have. Dolly Madison, I'm sure everybody that is on the American side has heard the story. Dolly Madison saved George Washington's painting when the War of 1812, our White House was burned, and Dolly Madison makes sure that the famous portrait that we all know of George Washington was saved during the war. Really great profile too. Look at all the detail. Someone really was a great bio builder for this.
Wow.
That one's really, really great. Okay.
And I like the photo.
I do. I like the photo. I like the background. You know, sometimes people don't like backgrounds. This one is kind of interesting to me. It's intriguing to me. And you'll see that the U.S. President's Project has that one. Let me move this down just a tad. Okay, moving on. So I believe I'm going to say this, so everybody that speaks French, please apologize. I want to apologize if I do not say it correctly, but I believe it's Etienne Tache, and Canadian father of the Confederation. So I put these two together because they're similar, and he was a prime minister. He was really a key figure to get Canada into the Confederation. He helped actually create it. He was appointed to the Canadian Senate as well. And oops, I just kind of messed up my screen. So give me 1 second. There we go. And what was interesting to me is, even though we have similar types of governments, not completely, but there was a 72 resolution for this country to become a confederation. So it was basically the setup before they elected Canada to become one. And he's also remembered for his contributions to the French Canadian culture and identity. So that wasn't lost when they became. And you know, being me, I will just point out one little thing. There's a word I recognize here. So for those of you that don't know, that the Appalachian Mountains do reach up into Canada as well. I did not put that on the profile. It was already on the profile, just so everybody knows.
That's good.
I was shocked.
Someone had to say it.
Yep.
That's true. Okay, so James Naismith, and I had to go to my husband for this one. Basketball. I really know hardly anything of basketball, but he is the father of basketball. And again, I love the picture and I love the background here. It's really, I just love it. And then he also has members of the world's first basketball team. This just really draws you in. This profile, and I don't know, I think we can fit a couple more categories, just a few. So that was interesting to me too. But I just love this picture of him on the ball. So this is really, really appropriate because he was working with the YMCA in Springfield, Massachusetts, and devised the original 13 rules and used peach baskets, those wooden baskets, fruit baskets for initial hoops. So he would take out the bottom, and that's what they would use. And he also wrote the very first basketball rule book and went to University of Kansas, started their team in their program in 1898 and stayed there and coached it for a decade. But he was much more than basketball, which I was really intrigued by, because you look at his profile and you think he's all basketball, but his most famous contribution would be basketball. But he also is credited with designing the very first football helmet for added safety. And he was a medic and a chaplain during World War I. So this is a great profile too from the Canada Project. I just really like this profile. And I don't, we've been having a debate in our project a little bit amongst some of us. The headers? I like the headers instead of the long narrative where you kind of get lost. I like the headers where it points out. What do you guys think? It's easier to read, I think.
Yeah. Especially if you're interested in a particular facet of somebody's life, you can jump right to it.
Yeah, and especially if there's a lot to the profile, it's nice to have it broken up. And also then you can link into that certain section from other places. So.
Right. It creates a URL.
Yeah. So there's a table of contents, right? Yeah. Which might be, there it is. Yep.
And then you could grab that link if you want to grab that link and mention it on G2G. Hey, I have a question about one of these children or his family. So it's really interesting how some people like the real long narrative. I kind of like a narrative with headers. So I'm kind of
more organized.
I'm just in between. Okay. Now, who hasn't heard of Charles Darwin? This one I'll go over pretty quick because I think everybody has pretty much heard of the father of evolution and the origin of species, because with his groundbreaking book. And I love this background as well. This looks like part of his handwriting, but his book on the origin of species was the first that presented the actual theory of evolution by natural selection. And what that theory does is it proposes that all living things have descended from a common ancestor over the vast stretches of time. Look at these photos. This is just really good. And the other thing that I really like about this, how many of you out there have a father-son, exactly the same name, maybe similar look in photos or something? And I love this box where it says it's easily confused. So right off the bat, I can say, okay, well, the uncle was also a naturalist, so I know which one I'm working with. Another a great profile from the England project, very detailed, very, very detailed. And I like how they put his early life and they keep going on through the career in the publications. And then his family as well. So his theory of evolution by natural selection really is the cornerstone of modern day biology. And it did come with some controversy because, it's kind of contradicting religious beliefs. And back then when this came out, that was just something that you didn't do. Today, it's more universally recognized as a cornerstone of scientific knowledge. But back then, that was just not something that you really wanted to talk about and go against religion. And I love it. They even put the DNA in there as well. And then if you celebrate International Darwin Day, that would be the date of his birth, February 12th. Now, I don't know about you guys. Have you guys ever used the phrase or something like it? Well, that's a Darwin going to happen, or that's a Darwin moment. Have you guys ever used that phrase?
I have no.
I will tell you, because you hear about Darwin and natural selection, as we said. So sometimes in the South, not so much anymore, because there are rules, but we used to see somebody load up a bunch of kids in the back of a pickup truck, no seatbelts, no restraints, no anything. And we're like, that's a Darwin moment. We saw that because that's a no. Usually a Darwin moment is like, no, don't do it. Definitely don't do it. Okay. And then moving right along, we've got Chris. Hold on, let me get. I'm on the wrong. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Chris Cornell. I was so thrilled somebody mentioned this and suggested this, because I did not expect it. I thought we'd only get more academics, and this is a fantastic one. If you were into trivia, this is a really, really great one. So I'm going to say one of the fathers of grunge rock, you can't forget Pearl Jam and Nirvana. Those in along with Soundgarden with Chris, those are kind of the three that are joined together, is known as grunge rock starters and the fathers. But Chris is really fascinating because he had this huge career with Soundgarden. And then when Soundgarden broke up, he had a career with Audioslave and did quite well. But then he went solo and 2 bands and then goes solo. And the cool thing that I thought about Chris, as I kind of scroll down, you look at his photo. So he was known to write for movies, and he wrote the theme song for the 2006 James Bond film Casino Royale. You know my name. If you've heard it, you'll kind of get an earworm on it. He also Mission 2000 for Mission Impossible 2. So if you're into trivia, this is really, really good. And all you Marvel fans, the Avengers. He wrote with Soundgarden. They performed and featured Live to Rise. The one thing I want to point out about his biography is his lineage, and I love how it's detailed. So apparently he went on an interview with Howard Stern and mentioned, or instead, kind of insinuating, appeared that his mother's Jewish, but his DNA does not show that. So that's a mystery of why he thought that or why he said that. And somebody has taken the lineage and detailed it out to disprove it. And again, this is fabulous when we also see DNA and kind of prove the past as we go along. And then let me move up to Henry Parks, Sir Henry Parks. So this is for everybody from down under, from Australia, from the Oceanic. This is your representative this week. Thank you for nominating him. He was a dominant figure in the Australian politics during the second half of the 19th century. So kind of how we talked early, very beginning, about James Madison. This is bringing us down under. And he is just widely regarded and known simply as the father of federation, because he just had tireless advocacy for unification of the 6 separate Australian colonies into one single nation. And I would agree with his belief that he firmly believed that a united Australia would become stronger and more prosperous on the world stage. Love these photos. Love these photos. Anytime you can see that. And I love seeing cats. I love seeing the categories that you see here. But these photos are fantastic. And this is a great profile from the Australia project. Let it go down. And then I like how they identify each child. And again, they are identifying DNA as well. not only was he known though as the father of Federation, he served 5 terms as premier of New South Wales. That was at the time, and a champion of education, which was really cool. I thought this was interesting, Betsy. So he thought that there should be a system of schools that are free for every child in the country, and he created the Public School Act of 1866. Saying that basically establishing a system of free, compulsory and education in New South Wales. And he did other things. He championed railroads. And for a country like Australia, you need to champion railroads and the roads themselves. And it was wanted to make a strong identity, national identity. Once you combine those those territories, you kind of have to create that identity, I think. And sadly, he died penniless at age 80.
Oh.
Okay, now Betsy, I'm going to need your help.
Yes.
Let me see if I can pull this down. I've got my. Let me see. Give me a second, guys. I got my Zoom. Okay, Betsy.
Okay.
We are going to talk about the father of capitalism. And Betsy did something so cool. She used, in a way, cousin bait.
Right. So when Sandy was wondering about this, first of all, I said, well, which nationality? I wasn't looking at the profile. And because the characters between Chinese and Japanese are shared. And so what I did was I sent the characters to my cousin in Taipei, and he said, okay, here's how you would say it in Japanese, and here's how you would say it in Chinese. And it's amazing. It was very, very distinct.
Wow.
So Asian languages have the surname coming first. The surname is Shibuzawa. And I was really stumbling over that until I heard him say it, and I realized that if you say that S at the end, Sawa, like a Z, Shibuzawa, then it just flows right off. First name, Ichi. So
thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And this is kind of amazing profile as well. Now, Russell was with the Notables Project. He's PM, and I think he picked this up. Somebody else had created it, and he picked this up. And it's just kind of fascinating to see WikiTree go global. And that's kind of where this profile instantly pulls you in. As I'm curious what it's like. So he is known as the father of Japanese capitalism, which is really an important role. If you think back, we're talking around 1867. So around that time, in the States, we were just kind of finishing up the Civil War. We still were trying to get our act together, and he is bringing Western capitalism to Japan. He introduced a lot of economic reforms, double entry accounting, which any accountant, I know my mom is one. She uses it daily. Joint stock corporations and the modern note issuing banks from actually in Japan. So those weren't there in Japan. He brought them in. And the reason why I mention this is because if you have anything to do with economics or stock exchange or something like that, we always kind of start with how did it open in Japan first? And then we see how it's going in New York and across other areas. But he founded the first modern bank in Japan as well. He's just really a fascinating profile to look at with the character script. But if you guys get time, definitely read more about him. There's a little bit more that we could probably put on the profile. It is just really fascinating because he really believed in the importance of combining Western economic practices with traditional Japanese values. And if you think about some of the movies you might have seen where the cultures combine, you'll get it. You'll get that sentence completely where the Western and the Japanese values come in. And his teachings continue to be an influence in Japan today. So he's just really, really an interesting character. There could be a little bit more we add to a profile. If anybody feels like it, feel free. That would be great. And then William Still. Okay, I'm going to ask everybody to definitely check him out. He's the father of the Underground Railroad. And he's one of the few conductors of the Underground Railroad who actually kept a written record of those he helped. And you're going to say, okay, what is the record? So he helped a few people. It's estimated that he helped, or at minimum, 649 runaway slaves to over 1,000, and he kept record of all of them. This comes to us from the USBH. Beautiful profile, beautiful photos as well. The thing that I was talking about that is so interesting is his legacy and his writings. So if you come to his profile, click on his writings, and let me bring it up. There we go. They actually have a spreadsheet of every runaway slave that they helped. And WikiTree, the USBH project, is working to get every single one of them into WikiTree. I just think that's cool.
That's amazing.
They have, I mean, they have the age, they have the date, they, you know, where they came from, who their enslaver was. For this gentleman to keep these notes is just, you know, a gem, a gold mine of information for families to try to connect back
And
to.
I wonder if the 1880 census initiative,
Yeah.
the USBH project, has made any connections between the census and this document yet. I mean,
That
it'll
would be
happen.
a really good question. And the other thing that I was kind of surprised at is there was a lot of Maryland, which in Virginia, I'm sure if I dig deeper on the list, I'll find more deep South. But this is just fascinating that he kept their age, their names, and adding the enslaver. I can see him probably saying, okay, let me get your name and how old are you? But that key piece was getting that enslaver information for genealogy, because now we can try and match. If a lot of times our census just said they had 4 slaves.
Yeah.
And if we happen to have that information here, we can start to chip away at their family tree. It's just fascinating. It was a really fascinating idea that he did. And you know, he probably had no idea at the time what we would be doing with it as we go through. Okay, one more fathers. So let me see if I can, Betsy, you're so kind to do the Japanese. Let me see if I can do the German. So this is Konrad Adenauer. I hope that's right. The father of the Bundesrepublik, I think, Bundesrepublik. But he had patents in Austria and Britain, and some people know him for that. But I'm going to guess that our friends over in the Germany project know him because he was really the first chancellor of the new West Germany Republic. I want everybody to kind of think about this for a second too. So it's World War II, and World War II is over. There's a lot of cheering. Everybody's thrilled the war's over. But when you think about it, for Germany, they have a kind of a dual problem. A lot of their land and their buildings were destroyed, and they did not win the war. So they needed somebody to come and be a leader and bring this country together again and take it out of the negative past. And I know that he is very revered in the country. He is actually reconciled with France and made the post-war economy flourish. And I just want everybody to think about that for a second. You know, you lost the war. He obviously was not a leader during the war. He came up into the rise afterwards, and he's got that huge task of bringing Germany back into the world stage and also helping the people that lived in Germany. That's pretty tough. That one's pretty tough.
Yeah.
And during the first food war, though, first World War, say that 12 times fast, he was responsible for the food supply. And as the war kept going on, of course, as we know, when wars go on, farms aren't working as much, and they could sometimes become battlefields. So food was scarce. It was the commodity. He decided that because he was in charge of food supply, he would make emergency bread from cornmeal. Now, an Appalachian can understand cornmeal, so we can figure that one out. But he was also the inventor of veggie sausage.
Oh.
I'm not sure where that comes out. He tried to get a patent for it in Germany, and the patent office did not consider the process for improving the taste of the protein-rich, fat-containing vegetable flours a patentable invention. They just no. I think that maybe they just didn't like it, the taste of it.
He's ahead of his time because we're all over that Impossible Burgers and
I know you go to fast food and now you've got it. But he is pretty prolific. He had over 40 inventions. Germany granted him just one, that cornbread. He had a luminous darning egg, but somebody else had already put in a patent idea for a luminous darning mushroom. So he didn't get that for that. A transparent toaster. I guess so you can watch your toast go. And the Germany project members can let me know about this accuracy or not, but rumor has it he opened the first Autobahn. So pretty interesting character that he's there. I will mention too that if you click on his photo, the lady who actually took his photo took many photos of famous people. She's on WikiTree as well.
Oh, neat.
So you can see that. So the Thanks Germany project and one of your good buddies, Stephen Greenwood. So a really good profile that gives you the information there too. Okay, so moving along, we have got Paul Otlet, and he comes to us from Belgium. Again, I love a profile. If a profile has a photo, I'm all in. I'm going to stop. I'm going to pause. I'm going to look at it. He's a Belgium author, an entrepreneur, lawyer, peace activist, and he predicted the arrival of the internet before World War II. So he dreamt of creating this comprehensive repository of all the world's knowledge, accessible to everybody. Sounds like the internet, right? And he called this project Mundanium. So I guess taking mundane and Mundanium, taking in all the world's knowledge and putting it together. But his ideas were on information organization, retrieval, accessibility, and that sounds like a library to me. It sounds like a database, maybe like WikiTree Plus, and information systems where it just WikiTree as well. So he's a fascinating character from Belgium. And then moving on, for anybody who has done any computer work, and I'll just mention one little thing before I get started. If you have watched the PBS show Victoria, you'll recognize somebody I'm going to talk about as well. So Charles Babbage is the father of the computer. And he was an English polymath. Does anybody, I know 2 polymaths in my life. Do either of you two know any polymaths in your life?
Well, polymath, isn't it somebody who's super skilled in multiple areas, like an
expert? And knows, you can ask them almost any question of any topic and their accurate response. I see that. I am not one of the 2 I know. I'll make that clear. But he had talents in mathematics and philosophy as well with invention. And so I don't quite understand any of this. I will be fully honest with you. I did ask my kid and my husband, who are the programmers, but this comes from the England project, the Difference engine. It is a mechanical calculator to kind of automate really complex mathematical calculations and eliminate errors. Never fully completed because of funding. And then he had the second part was, let me see, it's got to be down here somewhere. Oh, it's not. Okay, the second part is an analytical engine. And that was another way of performing calculations and memory for storing data and programs. And it greatly influenced our computers today. So if you think about our computers today, that was his kind of idea to bring it forward. Now, why did I say Victoria from the PBS series is because he collaborated with Ada Lovelace, and she was focused in one of the episodes of Victoria.
I remember that one. Yes.
And so by collaborating with him, he was the father of the computer, and she's considered the world's first computer programmer.
Yeah.
So you've got both of them together. He never witnessed the creation of a fully functioning computer. It was just way before his time that he did. So I know a lot of people know about Charles Babbage.
Sorry, Sandy, we have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Lucas Murphy says, my husband pretends that he knows the answer to every question. Does that count?
Well,
does it fit with the
we need the word accurate there? So it can the answer has to be accurate, because I do know many people who can answer every question, whether you want them to or not, but not with accuracy.
So no.
But I think we should give it to our husband. I think we should do that. Okay, last one, and thank you guys for hanging in there with me. And I did save this one for last. Is Joku in the chat by chance?
Who?
Joku is
No.
No.
I didn't see.
Because I purposely worked off of her profile to get this one person connected a little bit more. So let me bring you to Mr. Cradis Williams, and he is the father of Appalachian studies. Some people consider him the father of Appalachia, but we just call him, in short, Mr. Appalachia. He was a folk artist, a professor, a singer, not a recorder or anything like that, a singer, but he specialized in Appalachia culture. Very, very, very interesting guy. And if you know us in Appalachia, we tell stories. And that's what he did. He was teased as a young age at school. He lived on a farm on the mountain. His grandfather was a legal moonshiner. And so he had to come down off the mountain to go to elementary school. And his manner of speaking, his clothes, the occupation his grandfather did to help the family survive, he was made fun of. He was looked down on and he was made fun of. And it really kind of affected him from an early age. When he got to high school, a teacher said, you know what, rise above it. You can either sit there and be miserable and have people complain about you, or rise above it. And that's exactly what he did. Graduated college, became a professor at what is now Appalachia State University. And in those classes, he was known to tell stories. So if you were a student in his class, you were getting a story every day along with whatever he was teaching. He believed in spelling. He thought everybody should spell very well. And if those that just could not spell after 2 years still could not spell, that was one of his bless your heart moments. You just can't spell. So we tried. But he was very proud of where he came from. He was not ashamed of it. He knew he grew up on a mountain. He was a mountaineer. He was a masterful storyteller. He's just proud of his ancestors. He had ancestors that fought in Revolutionary War, the War of 1812. In the French and Indian War as well. And he's just proud to be an Appalachian. He believed, and this is really important coming from an Appalachian, that I tell you guys this. So he believed that all people, including, his own family, should be judged within the context of their time in the world and when they're living, their opportunity. So sometimes people have better opportunities than others, and they're good or bad fortune. I kind of consider good or bad fortune more like good or bad luck, but also their full character. And the reason why we in Appalachia Project Appalachians think this is important is because sometimes Appalachians are not talked well of. So, matter of fact, we have a project member that lives in Oregon, and he was mentioning to people at work, I'm part of this Appalachia project. And they were like, oh, that's negative. That's bad. If you're being called an Appalachian, it's bad. And it's really not. It's not. But throughout his career, he spoke, wrote, and sang about the heritage of Appalachia. So I wish Greg was here because he would get a kick out of this. There is a way that we define Appalachia is the U.S. government agency called the Appalachia Regional Commission. If you've ever been on our project page, that's the map with all the counties. He is called Mr. Appalachia because he helped the government set it up, gave them ideas on how they can help the individuals in Appalachia, but he is also known for valiantly fighting them against the mispronunciation of Appalachia. So after World War II, Appalachia kind of became a thing because land was cheap. Soldiers were buying land there. And the lawmakers in DC would always say Appalachia instead of Appalachia. So he wanted to make sure everybody knew that the Appalachian Indians are really kind of how we got our name, and they would be insulted to have a syllable in their name with the long A. So that was his gimmick and his thing. And just so you know that it is Appalachia, think of it as a lock and key. So DC, he actually changed the mind of DC's. One last thing to tell you about Kratos that I really love. When he knew he was dying, he had one final request. Remember me with joy and laughter, and please share Kratos stories that have become a part of the culture of Appalachia. Anyhow, so that would round up. Now, I just want to point out one other thing, and I got to give a shout out. So this connections 5,400. I got to thank the Appalachia Project. When Abby picked this gentleman from the nominations, he was only around 2,000 in the Appalachia Project banded together and really went to town and got his CC7 up over 5,400. Why did we do that? Because we want everybody to do a connection to him. And we tried to use some of the furthest ones. And Betsy, we knew that your tree was kind of out there. Vicki, I'm not sure about your tree and how you connect to Kratos. And then we also used Joku as a test ground to see if we can connect over to the Nordic countries as well. So give it a try. My famous thing is, almost everybody goes through Appalachia one way or another.
Well, and I think I'm connected now to
that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So it's distant. I'll work on getting it closer, but I got somebody.
That's true. So I want to encourage everybody as well, play the connection checkers. It is a lot of fun because you learn about who is in between. So when you play the connection checkers, verify. Tell us who you're playing with and verify. And those of you that have the longest route, I think somebody was verifying 45 profiles in a week. So that was pretty good. Okay. So that's
a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I think, the longer you play it, those initial connections, of course, closest to you, you already know, oh, I did that, so it's not always as bad as it looks.
That's a good point.
Yeah. So
yeah, I have no connection with Appalachia. I may be the only one here that has no connection. I usually connect through Europe.
Yeah.
Through some European ancestors.
We'll fix that. Don't worry.
I know. You just the gauntlet.
We'll find one. I won't let you down.
Thank you, Sandy. That was fascinating. Well, let's look at some photos. So our photo theme for June is music. And here are some of the ones that we looked at previously. We have, I think, 3 photos. This is contributed by Brenda Millage. And it is, I'll see if I can give it more space. It's her great-grandmother, Mabel Bridgestock. And this was a photo that was in the Musical Times. I don't know anything about the publication, but in their edition on February 1st, 1901. And the occasion was that Mabel had passed her exam from the Royal Academy of Music in pinafore playing. So just a lovely portrait.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. Now I know we have Lucas in the chat. So this is I'll read from my iPad so I can show you more of the photo. He writes, I have no choice but to share 2 photos, and they are not even of my parents who were professional musicians. The photo I'm sharing is my great-grandfather Raleigh Ellsbury Murphy with his banjo in Montgomery County, Kentucky. He and his biscuits play. He and his biscuits.
I love it.
He and his brothers played for many dances in the Appalachian region of Kentucky. The other picture is myself holding the same banjo that belonged to my great-grandfather, and this was a photo that I took as part of a thon with the Appalachian team.
Oh,
Love this.
that's a good one. Great.
That's great. Thank you, Lucas. Complete with the jug. And then finally, we have this is from Donna Gerber, who I think made it over to Zoom. This is her great grandfather, Charles Clinton Fairby, in his band uniform with his trombone. He was a member of the Pine Grove Community Band in Pine Grove, Pennsylvania. His family was very musical, and his younger half-sister told me that the family would gather on Sunday afternoons to make music. While I never heard him play any instruments, I did know him, as he didn't die until 1977, about 2 weeks before my 20th birthday. So that's really amazing to have grown up with a great-grandparent. Very special.
Wow.
That is.
Yeah, and it's got his name on the photo taken in de Turksville. So I like it when there's inscriptions on the photos. Okay, so keep those photos coming. There's both the G2G post as well as a free space page. Now we've got a couple of ancestors to celebrate. First is, let me go to my tab here. Let's see, this is Victor Rose, who's with us in the chat.
Yeah.
This is his first cousin 2 times removed, Gilbert Humphrey Lowry. And yep, his death day was today. So we remember him on the day he passed in 1979. And Victor said he's not sure if his mother knew him. Born and bred, I assume probably lived in Illinois all his life. And looks like, yep, censuses and some newspaper clippings. So thank you very much for sharing Gilbert with us, Victor. And then our second pair of ancestors to celebrate comes from Shonda Feather, who is also in the chat. Thanks for I love it when people are here when we celebrate their ancestors and look at their photos. So her great grandparents were married on June 1st. So belated wedding and happy anniversary to them. These profiles, Shonda, they're just amazing, beautiful. I was so drawn in. I read the whole thing. So we've already talked on the live cast about the lovely way that Shonda does census tables, but I also just really liked that she gave some annotations after the census table to clarify things, like Rhea and George fostered some nieces and nephews who appear in the census, and so she's clear, make sure to identify, how they relate to the family. And I like putting the stickers at the appropriate point in the narrative. George served in World War I. He liked to go by his middle name, Kenneth or Jim, and he was a machinist. I think this is cool, for people long enough back to show home addresses, because descendants might be curious about that. Or, wow, I mean, what an amazing coincidence would it be if you read a profile and it's an address that you have some kind of link to. That would be cool.
Yeah.
So just really, really beautiful profile.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have some, I'm going to move you guys down so there are also a lovely photo of them.
It is.
Yeah, and him as a young man. And then on Ria's, I love her. I have glasses similar to hers. So
Oh,
I wonder how old she was in that photo. Really, really nice. So, and Shonda also shared with me 2 newspaper articles about this couple. And one was about a really terrible string of bad luck that the family had in the, let's see, I guess in the early 1930s. Yeah, I can't pull up the date right. Oh, there it is. This was November 1934. Just jobs being lost, people breaking bones, cases of appendicitis, scarlet fever. So what they're looking at there is a scarlet fever warning that was posted on their house when their second child was stricken with scarlet fever. Luckily, it seems like everybody survived, but yeah, it was, and Rhea actually had a nervous breakdown, and then I think she realized that, well, it's better to laugh than cry. So she was in the point in the perspective in this article was, well, I'm just laughing at it now. But wow, what a rough period of time that they had.
That
And
is.
the second really amazing story is that Rhea saved her husband from carbon monoxide poisoning. He must have been working a night shift, came home, fell asleep in his automobile before he must have forgot to turn it off. And she came out and roused him before, thank goodness, before it was fatal. And he did have to go to the hospital, but he was okay. So, wow. Thank you, Shonda.
wow.
All right, Vicki, you have some
Great stories.
father stories, dad jokes, anyone?
Yeah. Do you have any story you'd like to share, maybe, about any of your parents? I
Well,
mean, your father or
yeah.
any fathers and sisters?
I do actually. So this is about my paternal grandfather, who was Taiwanese, and his hobby was calligraphy, Chinese calligraphy. And he'd make these. If you go to his profile, from my profile, you'll see one of the scrolls he did. And so it was, very, very, taller than me, and just columns and columns of characters. And then at the end, what you do is you sign your name, and then you do a chop stamp, which is in red, and it's the characters for your name. And one of my cousins told me that, when he grew up with my grandfather, our grandfather, and he was watching him do this scroll, got to the end, my grandfather did the chop stamp upside down. And so, I mean, you can't have your name upside down at the end of the scroll. So my grandfather was just apparently annoyed and just ripped the whole thing up.
Did he redo all that
Okay.
work?
Oh yeah, I'm sure he did. He did many, many scrolls where all of the family we have them. We're lucky to have them. They're beautiful. But
And you have them as a background photo for
yes,
him, right?
I have it as a background
Yeah,
photo.
that's gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you.
That's beautiful. Yeah. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. I wanted to share just a brief, I have a lot of ancestors that were related to Chilean independence and wars, soldiers, Navy men. And my second great grandfather was a part of this historical fact, the sinking of the Covadonga, that was a ship during the War of the Pacific in 1880, and he was a member of this crew of the sinking ship. So in this stamp, maybe he's in the water. He was one of the 29 survivors that were saved by another ship that went there. So this is a good story, and he had a lot of stories, I guess, about his time in the war. But this was quite a good story, quite a save, right? From the 100 members of the crew, only 10 died. Others, like 50, were taken prisoners by the other band, by the Peruvian. You can see this is a Peruvian stamp. But he was safe, and he survived the war. So that's a good story. Sandy, do you have any story you'd like to share with us?
I've got it interesting. It ended up being funny, but with my dad, he was a Pepsi guy. So that's what he worked for. He actually worked for Pepsi and this is back in the day, Chesterfield cigarettes. So he tried to do both. He was kind of works for the distributor in West Virginia up in the mountains, and he would go from stores to stores and give them their order. They would place their order and he'd drop it off. Well, on his way to the store, one of the stores, there's a house fire, and he could not really reach anybody by cell phone. You had to, there was not any really easy way to reach anybody. So one of the neighbors' kids or something like that. When I say neighbors, I don't mean like suburban neighbors. I mean, they're like next farm over is pretty far. Ran to wherever the nearest phone was. He said, go call the fire department and tell them to get up here. Was not a quick trip for fire department. So he said, I can't sit here and just watch this house burn. And my dad was a very big man. If you've seen John Wayne, he looks almost identical to John Wayne. His hands were huge, picking up bottles of Pepsi and throwing it at the fire, just anything to try and get it to stop. So here comes the fire truck. He was a fireman, a part-time fireman, volunteer fireman. And he's like, all these guys come up and they're going, what are you doing? He goes, I'm putting out a fire. Where have you been? So they saved half the house that way, but because of that, him and my maternal grandfather were the impetus and the first firefighters for the Walkersville, West Virginia fire department. So they helped create it. So that way it wouldn't take so long to get there. But if you knew my dad, he was probably giving them heck as he's throwing Pepsi bottles. I'm going to assume he did not throw the cigarettes. That would be too bad, right? So the cigarettes fire.
Too much smoke.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, but good marketing for Pepsi, right?
That's true.
Right. So we have I have 8 answers for the question of the week. We had a kind of double goal. What's your favorite story of a paternal ancestor, or what paternal ancestor you admire? So we have 8 answers. I'm sorry if someone posted after I read this, but we have our Alexis Nelson, of course. She usually posts these beautiful pictures, and we have a story about this ancestor you may have seen, Pearl. She's her grandmother. Do you remember these photos? We have seen her
I think I
many
do.
times.
Yes.
Yeah, she has beautiful pictures. Well, Pearl was not only a beautiful lady, but she kept money everywhere. She hid her tons of cash in the vacuum cleaner, around their clothes. So
Wow.
when she died, they had to look around everywhere to check it, where there was money, where there was jewelry. So that's a quite a good story for her, for Pearl. Thank you, Lexis, for sharing this. And this is a story from NG Hill. I don't know if you're a she or a he, but the grandfather was quite eccentric. His he used to live in a house by the beach. So when you visited, the beach or the sea was the bath. You had to go there. Angie says he took shortcuts when painting. He painted around the furniture. So I think he was saving painting. He had a color TV before any other Queenslander says. He says it had blue cellophane at the top and green at the bottom. I guess he was trying to create I don't know, earth or green grass and the sky in the TV. I don't know. That's quite interesting. He had a sly gambling on the side, and he says, I don't know, her father was his runner, kind of Bart Simpson, if you know The Simpsons, and he would often go to sleep at school. So that is his grandfather. And I like this story about Yoka shared this. This is important because she identified the origin of her surname, Van Wienenda. Okay, I didn't know this, but Dutch people were ordered by Napoleon to take surnames. They used the usual, he was named Renger Willemsen, and Willem was his father.
Son
so
of
they
William.
took their father's, son of, and he took the name Van Wienenda. So that's the origin of the surname.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, that's great. And this was my favorite story. I have to give it a star. Yeah. Because John, you really made me laugh. He says his grandpa, Mike Vasky, was really into beer. I'm into that too. But he would come to visit and he would drink all day. So at the end of the day, one day, he was helping moving some paneling. And he says he stepped back a little too much. Down the steps he went. And his dad says it was the longest fall he had ever seen. That made me laugh, because if we see Mike, this is Mike. I'm sorry if I'm too intrusive. You didn't share photos, but I found him. And Mike we have also seen this photo, Betsy. Do you remember?
I think so. I think I remember the little boys with their tie.
Yeah, with the Sunday gowns.
Yes,
I guess.
yes.
Yeah, and Mike was very tall, so maybe that's why they say it was the longest fall. I'm not sure, but he fell and his foot, his shoe got crooked. So he looked at his foot and he said, "Oh my God, your mom is gonna kill me! I broke my damn foot." So, well, I think he was kind of drunk, but that's the kind of stories we want to share. That's the stories that are through generations with us, and we tell each other, and we laugh. Even me, I'm here in Chile laughing about his grandfather. So thank you. That was my favorite. we also have to say hi to Chris Ferraiolo. He's in the chat. And his great grandmother, Maria Tedesco. I have her picture here. Maria came to America. I will say came to America because, you know, I'm in America too, not your America. But she arrived in America as really young, I guess 23 years, with her 2 boys, and had no one here. And she died really early. She died at 43. Great profile. Thank you, Chris, for sharing. Yes, she passed away at 43. Right. And we have Janet shared 3 great stories. One I would like to share with you about. I'm not sure if I have the photo, so she had any photo, but she was a Scottish patriot. Let me see. Yeah, I didn't get the photo of her because she's in a group, so I don't know who is she, but she has a really interesting story. Let me go back. Oh, this is hiding my bar there. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there. I am back. Okay, so Mina was this is sorry. Oh, yeah. Mina was a piano player, and she won 2 gold medals for her piano playing. She had an interesting life. She was supposed to be studying in London piano, right? And she was to be staying in a boarding house for respectable young women. But she rented her own flat. Okay, she was a woman of her own, and she entertained people from the members of the Fabian Society, including George Bernard Shaw. That's interesting. So she had quite an interesting life, and this is the profile I wanted to share. It was Wendy Wood. She had 100% English ancestry, and she was a fervent Scots nationalist. And this is so interesting. She took out, she marched into Stirling Castle, took down the giant Union Jack and replaced it with a similarly giant Scottish Royal Standard, saying that the English flag should not be flying over Scotland's castle. So that is a woman to remember. You know, that's a great story of an ancestor. And last but not least, I'd like to share Ray Sarlin shares an undated family note from my great-grandfather's third wife's father. I'm just envy. I envy this. I would like to have these kind of notes for every ancestor. Yes. It says, very little is known about this family. He was a farmer. Obadiah was a great hulk of an Irishman with extremely long arms. He had gruff, fierce way with him and an Irishman's quick temper and love for fighting. Yes, they like fighting. One did not need to challenge him, but only make an expression he didn't like, and he's at it again, like the Corbetts. I just love that description, and we wished everyone had a description like that of every ancestor.
Brings him to life, for sure.
Yeah, and we usually work on profiles of people we don't know, and we'll never know. We don't even have a photo, or maybe just census records. But this is quite good. Thank you for sharing. So I hope everyone has a nice Father's Day weekend.
Yes, happy
we celebrated
Father's
here
Day.
in Chile too.
Yeah, yep. I know it's not universal, as you know. I think England does it at a different time. in May. I know Mothering Day is different, so I assume that their Father's Day is
Oh,
different.
yeah, we're celebrating tomorrow.
Yeah, same here. Well, let me just share to show what's going on this week. So I will go back to what's happening. What's happening around WikiTree this month. So Monday, David Randall and I will be doing our monthly global spotlight,
Yay.
one in the afternoon Eastern time. So tune in to see what country we're visiting. David Randall's a marvelous tour guide, and there also will be a research tip and topic.
Mhm.
And stay tuned, watch G2G for my post later in the weekend that will tell you what's the question of the week and remind you of links for posting your music photos, June ancestors. We have a sourcing sprint going on as always as every Saturday, today and next Saturday. Then going over to the social media calendar, our cemetery spotlight is on Union Cemetery in Ontario, Merrickville, Ontario. Got the global spotlight. One Name Tuesday is featuring the Vincent surname. Another round of connection checkers is coming up. So I hope we'll see more new participants in that. One Place Wednesday is in Llansantffraid in Wales. And
Wow.
our project showcase is on European royals and aristocrats. And finally, our Friday spotlight will be on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. And that brings us to right back to next Saturday. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone for their patience this morning, for hanging in there with us, and then being flexible and hopping over to Zoom. And we had fun. So.
Yes, thank you. Thank you guys. Will Sandy. Betsy, what will be the country for the global spotlight? Can you give us a clue? Do you know?
My
It's
lips
always
are.
a mystery.
You have to tune in Monday. I do know, but I can't say.
Okay,
David keeps
we'll
it
be
top
there.
secret. So and you all can hop over if you haven't had enough WikiTree, and whoever has enough WikiTree, you can leave us and go right over to the WikiTree Challenge Zoom chat. I think it may even be happening right now or very soon. So, all right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.